Well, Plymouth Argyle just keep on refusing to lie down in their relegation battle. Saturday's win against Norwich means that the gap to safety is just 5 points. And they could take another giant step towards keeping their championship status tonight in South Wales. Swansea City themselves are still tentatively looking over their shoulders, but know that a win today will see them past that magic 50-point mark. They actually helped Argyle out with the defeat of Derby on the weekend, but they can all but extinguish the Greens' hopes this evening. Another crucial night then in store, and all of the action is coming your way on Argyle TV. Hello, good evening. I am Charlie Price, and this is the pre-match show from Matchday Live on Argyle TV. Tonight, once again, has the feeling of do or die for Argyle. They simply must keep winning. And away games haven't been particularly fun for Argyle since their return to the Championship a couple of years ago. However, the Swansea.com stadium was the scene of a rare away win last season. Will they be able to repeat the trick tonight? Match passes, both audio and video, are available to purchase on our website right now. Head to pafc.co.uk for all of the details. Now, joining me for this evening's game, it's a former Argyle forward, Ian Stonebridge, and we keep saying it, Ian, but Argyle are just about keeping themselves in there, but they have to win again today, don't they?
Yeah, I think they do, but it feels like for ages we've been saying kind of, well, almost feeling like that's it. But then there's something happens, whether it's a win for us or somehow the results go for us, and there's that little glimmer of hope again. But that hope is definitely there. So yeah, fingers crossed tonight, those 3 points, and we can all start dreaming again. Absolutely.
I think Miron Mislic, and we'll hear from him a little later on, has already used the word miracle. And it certainly would be if you look at the position Argyle are in and have been for such a long time. But as you say, even last night the results sort of were okay for Argyle. There were a lot of draws for the sides around us. Can't move off bottom today with a win, but if we were to, let's just say if we were to, that gap immediately shrinks to just a couple of points.
Yeah, it does, and it just puts that pressure back on those other teams. And I think you're almost at the stage where the pressure for Argyle, obviously we have to keep winning, but it's almost a given that lots of people writing us off, lots of people saying we were already down, but until it's mathematically impossible, I think that's, we obviously hold out that hope. For me, everyone from kind of QPR downwards really has the potential to be dragged into it, and the teams are really bunched up. A few results can shift those positions around, and again, fingers crossed it's Argyle that get those.
Yeah, and that's sort of the difference, I think, from the last few seasons anyway, where there's been at least one team that's been cut adrift so fully at the bottom of the table. Thankfully, that hasn't happened. Now, you mentioned pressure a couple of times there. Talking from a former player's perspective, when you literally have to win a game, does that increase the pressure, or does it almost focus the mind a little bit more? You're not thinking, oh well, a draw might be good at this. I mean, you have to win.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate I didn't experience it at this end of the table. I think we had games that on paper, I guess, were must win at the top end. Must win to win the league or must win to secure promotion.
Which is a different thought process.
It absolutely is, because it's a different threat, it's a different atmosphere, and also the difference in pressure there is you're used to winning. You're at the right end of the table, and you've got that run of results. Probably you've been in a good vein of form, so it's more about keeping things going. Perhaps at the other end of the table, there's that notion that teams find themselves there because of a lack of consistency and a lack of rhythm. So yeah, the pressure is absolutely different. But I think it's Argyle. The benefit of them going into this game is they have got a bit of a model tactically that has proven successful in certain ways in recent games, and I'm sure that's what they'll be looking to implement again tonight.
Yeah, it certainly has away from home, as we've seen the last couple of games. Win against Portsmouth, draw at Watford last time on the roads. They've picked up 4 points in their last couple of games after the final international break. So there will be a bit of confidence around. That man there, bang in form. And let's have a look at the side that Miron Mislic has gone for this evening. It shows just one change actually from Saturday. So that sees Darko JB come back in for Jordan Houghton, who drops to the bench. But it is the same squad of players. It is the same attacking lineup, which has worked quite well in the last couple of games, and thankfully Nikola Katic has recovered from the knock that forced him off on Saturday. Stoney, I want to talk striker to striker, a bit of appreciation here. We saw Ryan Hardie just a moment ago taking in the sights and sounds of the Swansea.com stadium, but match winner on Saturday against Norwich, got the 2 goals, up to 10 now for the season, which is the 4th season in a row he's gone into double figures. How impressed have you been with him of late?
Yeah, hugely impressed. You know, as strikers, you often talk about those spells of goals, and he's obviously in that rich vein of form at the moment. It's been crucial in Argyle, hanging on, if you like, to that hope of staying in the league. So the timing from his point of view couldn't be better. I don't think there's no coincidence that the return of Adam Randell, I think, has been a factor. Perhaps we see him create this chance with a brilliantly measured ball over the top, but the confidence that Ryan Hardie's showing in front of goal is the thing that you almost can't get without that run of goals as a striker. He's just so calm in that situation, and it just becomes, putting the ball in the net just becomes the thing that you do when you're in those situations. His touch is good. He's putting the ball exactly where he needs it each time to have that crisp finish. And on both of these goals from the weekend, there's never any doubt when he's in that situation that he was going to finish it off, and there's no hesitation, and that's where the ball ends up. So yeah, from Argyle's point of view, it's been vital that he's been able to find that form. And yeah, hopefully again he can be a threat for us tonight.
You mentioned confidence, and he certainly looks from the outside as if he is one of those. He goes on hot streaks and he goes on very cold streaks. But again, tell us a little bit about what that is for a striker when the primary aim is to score a goal. That's a given. But for whatever reason, sometimes it doesn't happen, and you're in the doldrums, or you're not. You think you're not getting a chance. What is it? What is in the mind of a striker?
Yeah, I think we mentioned that pressure. I think the pressure on a striker, as you say, is to score a goal. But all the time that you are on a run of form when you are scoring, that pressure's much less. It's not even there. So when you start a game, for me, on the very rare occasions where I found myself in a run of goals, perhaps, you don't worry about your performance. You assume you're going to score, and so when that chance arrives, again, I think that positive thinking means that you fall back on your technique. And these guys are professional footballers for a reason. They've got that technique. They've proven that over a number of years, and we know that Ryan Hardie's a really accomplished finisher. So if he misses a chance, it's not down to his technique. It's not down to those other things. It can simply be down to feeling like you're in the habit of scoring, and the doubt doesn't even enter your mind. So again, yeah, the overriding emotion, certainly for me, almost any time I scored was one of relief. You've done your job. You've done what you're meant to do for the team, and again, you go into that next game just assuming that you're going to score.
I kind of want to talk about him in terms of placement in Argyle's sort of hierarchy of players. Mentioned the form he's in at the minute. It's 4th season in a row where he's got double figures of goals. He's continuously stepped up. He's a double promotion winner, almost at the 250 game mark as well. This is tricky because we're talking about him, but does he get the sort of praise that other strikers that have had hot runs? Think of Ruben Reid, for example, when he came back in, that he's still fondly remembered. Maybe it's because he's still playing, and you appreciate him afterwards. But do you think he gets the kind of plaudits that maybe his performances? Well, surely his performances deserve. Sure.
I mean, when you look at his record and that number of games, he's been a fantastic servant for the club. That's the first thing to say. And sometimes I think that might need the perspective of when someone's either left the club or they finish their career, and you look back and you don't then remember, as strikers, I don't think so much the spells without goals. No. You remember, you look at the double figures each season, or you look at someone hitting 20 goals in a season, and that's the bit that you remember, along with the really important goals that were particularly memorable, perhaps. So, yeah, I think he's undoubtedly in a rich vein of form at the moment. But I think it's that perspective from as a striker, comparing to that record to other players in Argyle's history. Of course, he needs to be celebrated, and it's fantastic what he's done. Long may it continue.
Yeah, he's desperately chasing down the top 10. Mickey Evans there in 10th. George Hughes 81 goals. So he's a fair way behind. Just one final thing on the Argyle team before we look at Swansea, picking up on something you mentioned earlier on about the return of Adam Randell as well. He had that 5-game stint out with the injury and then picked up 3-game suspension. And I think in the 2 games since, he's been nominated in the league's team of the weekend. We saw him grab an assist there as well. What is it about him, maybe even working with Ryan Hardie, that you were talking about?
Yeah, I think we saw it in that assist, the vision and the quality in terms of his passing. When you're playing in the style that Argyle are at the moment, when you're absorbing pressure, you're sitting deep, and you're making the most of maybe slim pickings going forwards, it's vital that you've got a player, I think, who can unlock the opposition defence. And it's from Hardie's position, I think, where he's been playing perhaps from a slightly deeper starting position, harder to pick up, and you need that player who can appreciate those forward runs and those runs that are from slightly deeper, where perhaps before we were missing that vision and that quality. So I don't think it's a coincidence that him coming back in has coincided with a really good win at the weekend. And I think as a player like Ryan Hardie, as a forward player, you're always conscious of who's on the ball. Have they got the quality? Have you got that understanding with the player that they understand the type of runs you're going to make and be able to find you? And I think Adam is clearly a player that can do that. So again, sitting deep and relying on the counter-attacks, his quality in terms of his passing might be really key for Argyle.
Right, let's have a look at the Swansea team, shall we? They got their first win in 4 against Derby on the weekend. It was a goal from Ji-sung On, and he's been rewarded with that by getting a starting berth today, one of 3 changes made by Alan Sheehan. Joe Allen, the evergreen, the veteran midfielder, comes in for Jay Fulton, who actually scored at Home Park in the reverse fixture. And there is a spot for big money summer signing Zan Vipotnik up top. Cullen dropping to the bench. So this is how we think they'll line up. We're thinking as well, Ian, it's a change of formation with Delcroix coming out and Om coming in. Back to a back 4. Maybe also more of a focal point with a more physical striker through the middle. And then Joe Allen, who seems to be able to play anywhere, could be the little creative spark.
Yeah, he's obviously got a huge amount of experience, played a fantastic number of games at the top level. So his quality, I think, might be something that they really rely on to try and get Swansea playing in the style that I think we've become accustomed to from them.
Yeah.
And in that respect, the contrast, Argyle will go there happy to not have the ball, presumably, if that tactical approach continues, which we assume it will. And Swansea like to have possession. They like to try and, if you like, wear down the opposition. And as we say, that's kind of what Argyle seem to be comfortable doing at the moment. So it will be on Swansea to try and create something. And I think perhaps at the weekend in their last game, they were able to do that, but perhaps without creating loads of chances. And again, that will perhaps suit Argyle's style.
Yeah, it was a second half goal from the South Korean arm that gave them the win. And he's hitting a little bit of form at the minute. See his 2 goals in the last couple of home matches, that against Middlesbrough about a month ago, and then he got the winner last time out. It's taken him a little while to get off the mark, Ian, but that goal shows immense amount of quality, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think that the licence to cut in off that left-hand side and curl that ball in, it was kind of reminiscent of Finazaz for us, a few goals he got for us. And here you talk about ensuring as a forward player that you're always available, if you like, and always thinking about the opportunity to score a goal. He's locked in the back post there and got himself a tap in as a result. So yeah, seems to be alive, and he'll be someone like Ryan Hardie going into the game with plenty of confidence.
Yeah, well, someone who will be hoping Ryan Hardie definitely does have confidence is the Argyle head coach Miron Muslic. He described the task ahead of Argyle this season as something of a miracle, and it may well be a fantasy for Argyle to stay up this season. However, there is a bit of renewed optimism around the football club following Saturday's win, which can only be a good thing heading into tonight. It's one thing being positive and trying to portray a positivity around the place, but like you said, the players have to also feel that positivity and then put that into action. And on Saturday that was definitely evident. So how sort of pleasing is it that even now you can see the effects of stuff you're doing and other coaches are doing and maybe other players are saying to each other?
But remember the last time we sat here was exactly this kind of questions and this topic, and my answer was, it's up to us now. It's not up to the Green Army, they are there anyway. It's up to us, and we have to perform, we have to deliver, we have to deal with this kind of pressure game and must-win game. And that's why I'm very, very proud and very pleased also, not only with the reaction, because the reaction was obvious, with the performance and also the goal scoring opportunities we created and the beautiful goals also we scored. It shows that we are still alive and that we believe.
Just on Swansea then, what are you expecting from them on Wednesday?
Absolutely no pressure, and I think this is a good team. I think very, very possession-based, very dominant in possession, very similar to Norwich. I think the second highest possession in our competition. Had a fantastic result, of course, against Derby. So they will have the opportunity to play free, and we have to win. But I want also my team to focus first on our performance. And if we do this, we have also the chance to go over there and grab the 3 points.
Is playing with freedom and no pressure for Swansea, let's just say, is that more dangerous potentially? Could it be more dangerous?
Yeah, of course, because they can just go outside and enjoy the game. But we also, because we showed also, and we proved this character test against Norwich, that we can actually compete against the top team, and when we know we have to win. One change for Wednesday night, and that's okay. We have to deal with that, and we can deal with that.
Muslic there talking to me earlier on in the week, and visibly happy with the way in which the side played against Norwich on Saturday. And you spoke after that game about the last couple of positive results, which included Watford a week ago, or a couple of weeks ago, built from a structure, built from a foundation. And the stats, if you look at them from Saturday, weren't necessarily heavily weighted in Argyle's favour. Possession was something like 25%. Shots were pretty even, but touches in opposition half and box and all that were way down on what Norwich were. And yet the one that's important was a scoreline. And that seems to be, and you mentioned it a bit earlier, a formula that does seem to be working for Argyle anyway.
Yeah, it does. It relies a bit on that compactness, and you are dependent on no mistakes and communication, staying organised, staying together as a team. It has to go right across the game. I think the great thing at the weekend was, going ahead in the game. Yes. Really gives you an opportunity to have something to protect. So again, it galvanises the squad, galvanises the team, and again puts more and more pressure on the opposition to unlock the defence, to break whatever kind of defensive barrier Argyle are putting up. So again, tonight as an away game, the key thing will be staying in the game first of all, but if they can nick a goal on the break and really give themselves something to defend, I think that can make it harder and harder for a home team in this situation. Yeah,
31 times Argyle have conceded first this season. They have obviously had a couple of 0-0 draws in there, but every time they've gone ahead, unbeaten. So there you go, lucky omen. Swansea's coach or head coach Alan Sheehan is in his second stint as being a caretaker, and he knows that a win tonight will all but keep Swansea in the division next season, and he's hoping that he can get that done quicker rather than later.
What sort of challenge will Plymouth pose?
Yeah, look, another team that are fighting for their lives, highly physical team again, so yeah, very difficult game again really at this time of year, because everybody raises their game that extra 5%. They had a really positive result against Norwich. They've gone away to Watford and drawn, so they picked up good results. So on their day, I think they beat Liverpool not so long ago in the Cup. So a team that we've got to be aware of and try and give the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a few weeks ago, I think a few people probably thought Plymouth were out of it, but they've hauled themselves back into it, as you say. I think their head coach has called this must win, the trip to Swansea. Your team need to match that, that hunger and desire before you start worrying about the football almost.
Yeah, definitely. At this stage of the season, it is like you have to do the right things in the right games. A lot of teams, set pieces very important. Obviously, giving the ball away. How we've conceded some of our goals have probably come from individual mistakes more than structural, but where we are at the moment is we want to be consistently picking up points, and we have been. I think they even themselves out. Really, we've probably had one game out of 7 where we were miles below par, and that's really it. And I think consistency is very, very important in a championship.
You mentioned Plymouth and Derby both need points to stay up. You didn't mention that you did. Do you think that you're over the line now?
No, I think we want to pick up more points in every game. It's not about getting over the line or under the line. It's about it's about going into every game and being competitive. I've never really mentioned anything, a goal or anything along them lines, but how I see it is that we've got to go into every game and be adaptable against the different challenges, against every individual team that we come up against. So I think we have been, though. I think we've showed a number of different sides to us in a lot of games, and at this point it gives us the best opportunity of picking up points, I believe.
Yeah, so just on that last point, Ian, they are 6 points clear of the relegation zone, 48, and it is always sort of chucked around as 50 points will keep you up. Now, it wasn't enough for Birmingham last season, but that was a bit of an anomaly. I mean, they'll want to get it wrapped up. I know he kind of was not playing it down a bit there, but they'll want to try and get that wrapped up as soon as possible, won't they?
Yeah, they will. I think maybe 6 points doesn't sound like a huge gap, but there are so many teams in that space that it feels like so many teams would have to have a change in fortune for them to be dragged into it. So, yeah, I'm sure he'll play it down and he'll be focusing on more about the team performance than worrying about the points from the outset. But at the end of the day, they'll be conscious that they just want to make themselves mathematically safe and then can start, I guess, the search for a new head coach and a new manager if he's not going to be that.
Well, yeah, which again is quite an interesting point because you look at the last 4 seasons, they've been like mid-table, very mid-table. Last time they got to the playoffs was under Russell Martin. It's been quite a long time since they've challenged, and obviously I think they spent 7-8 years in the Premier League, didn't they? And they are looking for a manager in the summer. He could well be one of them. Who knows? But he'll want to try and at least get them into a position where whoever that new head coach is or manager is will be thinking, right, well, we've got something to build on here to give it a bit of a push.
Yeah, definitely. I think the first thing will be that Swansea philosophy, that playing style that we know they've had for a number of years now. So clearly he's playing in a style that matches what the club wants, and that's perhaps why they've kind of confirmed him till the end of the season. But it does feel like the step now towards challenging for promotion. The money gets spent in this league is enormous in terms of that investment. And again, Swansea perhaps haven't quite shown that ambition as a club, and maybe they'll need to make that switch if it's going to compete, as well as putting the right person in charge.
Yeah. Okay, Ian, thank you very much for your help over the last half an hour. We're pretty much ready to head across to the Swansea.com stadium for commentary. If you haven't got your match passes yet, make sure you go and get them from our website, pafc.co.uk. Well, many sides have seen Argyle as a bit of a banana skin, and they have been of late. Will Swansea fall into that trap, or will Argyle manage to get over the line? We're about to find out. Rob McNichol and John Bez Wetherick are standing by for commentary. Argyle Strip to Swansea is next.